I was wrong about so much. But before I continue, let me ask you something. Wherever you are right now, whatever time it is where you are watching this, I want to know, are you in your kitchen? Your bedroom? Is it morning or late at night? Because I'm sitting in my new apartment. It's 7:30 in the evening, and I'm about to tell you about the worst and best 2 weeks of my life. And I need you to stay with me, because what I discovered about my own son still keeps me up at night. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old, and up until 14 days ago, I lived in the same Victorian house in coastal Maine that my parents left me when they passed. That house wasn't just a building. It was where I raised my son, Daniel. It was where my husband, Thomas, and I celebrated 40 years of marriage before he died 3 years ago from a heart attack. Every room held a memory. Every creaking floorboard told a story. I thought I was doing fine on my own. I had my garden. I had my book club. I volunteered at the library twice a week. My teacher's pension was modest, but enough. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. The house was paid off. I had savings. I had my independence. Then 6 months ago, Daniel called. My son, who lived 2 hours away in Portland with his wife Amy and their 15-year-old son Jake, wanted to talk. Not unusual, we talked every Sunday. But this time, his voice sounded strained. "Mom," he said, "I need to tell you something. The restaurant didn't make it. We had to close it last month." My heart sank. Daniel had poured his life savings into that farm-to-table restaurant. It was his dream. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry." "Yeah, well, it is what it is." He paused. "The thing is, Mom, we're pretty deep in the hole. And Amy's been on me about cutting expenses. Our rent is killing us. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. I was just a mother worried about her son." "What if," he said slowly, "we came to stay with you for a while, just until I get back on my feet? Maybe 6 months, tops. Jake could finish out the school year remotely. You have all that space. And honestly, Mom, it would be nice for you to have family around. You've been alone too long. What kind of mother says no to that?" My son needed help. My grandson would be under my roof. I could see Jake every day instead of once a month if I was lucky. "Of course," I said. "Of course you can stay." They moved in 2 weeks later. I gave them the master bedroom because it was bigger. I took the smaller bedroom down the hall. I cleared out the den so Jake could have his own space. Amy said they'd contribute to groceries. Daniel said he'd handle the yard work. Everything seemed fair. For the first month, it was almost nice. Jake and I would have breakfast together before his online classes. I taught him how to make my famous blueberry pancakes. He told me about his friends back in Portland, about the girl he liked, about wanting to be a marine biologist. We connected in a way we never had when they lived 2 hours away. But then things started to shift. Small things at first. Amy would leave dishes in the sink. "Oh, Margaret, would you mind? I have such a headache." Daniel stopped doing the yard work. "I've got job interviews, Mom. I'll get to it this weekend." The weekend never came. Then it was bigger things. They'd have friends over without asking me. I'd come home from the library to find strangers in my living room, Amy laughing loudly, music playing. "Sorry, Mom," Daniel would say. "We should have texted. We'll keep it down." They never kept it down. My groceries disappeared faster than I could buy them. When I mentioned it, Amy looked at me like I was being petty. "We're family, Margaret. We share. That's what families do." But I noticed I was the only one buying groceries. Daniel's job interviews never seemed to pan out. Amy wasn't working at all. "I'm focusing on Jake's education," she said, even though Jake was in his room on his computer all day anyway. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago, November 17th. I remember the exact date because it was 2 weeks before December 1st, my wedding anniversary. 43 years since Thomas and I got married. 40 years of actual marriage before he died. I had been planning a small memorial dinner, just me. Maybe my friend Carol from book club, something quiet to remember him. Daniel brought it up at dinner. "Mom," I was thinking, "since your anniversary is coming up, why don't we do something special? A family dinner. Amy's a great cook. We could make it a real celebration. I was touched. That would be lovely, honey. And Mom, he said, putting his hand over mine. I know these last few months have been hard on you. All the changes. Having us here. I want you to know how much we appreciate everything you've done. Amy nodded, smiling. You've been so generous, Margaret. We want to honor Thomas's memory too. He was a wonderful man. I went to bed that night feeling warm, feeling like maybe things would be okay. My son loved me. We were family. I had no idea what was actually happening. The next morning, November 18th, I woke up at 6 like I always do. I made coffee. I was in the kitchen when I heard it. A voice coming from upstairs. Daniel's voice. He was on the phone in the master bedroom, and his voice was carrying down through the heating vent into the kitchen. I should have walked away. I should have turned on the radio or gone outside. But something in his tone stopped me. He sounded excited, almost gleeful. Yeah, it's all set for December 1st, he was saying. Dr. Morrison said he'll come to the house, make it look like a friendly visit. We'll have dinner. Mom will be relaxed, and then he'll start asking her questions. You know, casual stuff at first. What year is it? Who's the president? Then he'll get into the memory tests. My blood went cold. Amy's been documenting everything, Daniel continued. The bills she forgets to pay. The groceries she can't keep track of. How confused she gets about what day it is. Morrison says it's enough for a preliminary assessment. And then, once we have that, Wilson the lawyer can start the paperwork. I stood frozen in my kitchen. My son was talking about me like I was a problem to solve. The house alone is worth $400,000, probably more, he said. And she's got at least $150 in savings. Once we get power of attorney, we can access all of it. Fix our problems. Start over. There was a pause. He was listening to whoever was on the other end. No, she won't fight it, he said. She'll be embarrassed, confused. Morrison will make it clear she needs help, needs supervision, and we're her loving family, stepping up to take care of her. Who's going to question that? Another pause. The best part? Once we have control, we can sell the house. Get her into one of those senior communities. She'll probably be happier there anyway, around people her own age. And we'll have the money to get our lives back on track. I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. My hand was shaking so hard the coffee cup rattled against the counter. I know, Daniel said, laughing. I feel a little bad, but Mom's getting old. She's not managing well. We're doing her a favor, really. And she kept saying she wanted to help us. Well, this is how she can help. I set down the coffee cup very carefully. My mind was racing. The heating vent. I had forgotten about it. When Daniel was a teenager, he used to eavesdrop on me and Thomas through that same vent. I caught him once, and we had the ductwork looked at. But the contractor said short of rebuilding the whole system, sound was always going to carry between those two rooms. Daniel had forgotten about it too. Or maybe he just didn't think I'd be up at 6 in the morning. I stood there for another minute, listening to him wrap up his call. My son, my baby boy who I had rocked to sleep, who I had driven to soccer practice, who I had paid for college, who I had supported through every failure and celebrated through every success. He was going to have me declared incompetent. He was going to take my house, my money, my independence, my life. And he was going to do it at a dinner party on my wedding anniversary. I walked very quietly out of the kitchen. I went to my bedroom. I closed the door. And then I sat on my bed and I cried for exactly 5 minutes, because that's all the time I could afford. After 5 minutes, I dried my eyes. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said out loud, "You are not incompetent. You are not confused. You are not helpless." And then I started planning. First thing I did was go to my computer. I typed in Dr. Morrison's name with Portland and physician. Found him right away. Dr. James Morrison, family practice, specializes in geriatric care. I read the reviews, very thorough, compassionate with elderly patients, helped us navigate my father's decline. I called his office. "Hi," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This is Margaret Chen. I believe my son, Daniel Chen, contacted you about an evaluation? The receptionist put me on hold. Then a nurse came on. Yes, Mrs. Chen. We have you scheduled for a home visit on December 1st at 6 p.m. Perfect, I said. I just wanted to confirm the address. She read it back to me. My address. Thank you so much. Then I called Roger Wilson, the lawyer. Same thing. Friendly, professional. Yes, Mrs. Chen, we have you down for paperwork following the evaluation. Just a formality, you understand, to protect you and your assets as you age. I understand completely, I said. Thank you. Then I hung up, and I made another call. To Janet Crawford, attorney at law, estate planning, and elder law. Carol from book club had used her when her mother passed. Miss Crawford, I said. I need help. And I need it fast. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop in the next town over. I told her everything. I played her the recording I had made on my phone that morning. Daniel's voice, tinny but clear, talking about declaring me incompetent. Janet's face went hard. This is elder abuse, she said flatly. Financial exploitation. It's illegal. You could press charges. I don't want to press charges, I said. He's my son. He's trying to steal your life. I know. I looked at her. But I want to handle this my way. Can you help me? She could. Over the next 10 days, Janet and I worked fast. First, we set up an irrevocable trust. The house went into the trust. I was the trustee. Upon my death, the house would go to Jake, my grandson. Not Daniel. Jake, with the stipulation that he couldn't access it until he was 25, and in the meantime, it would be managed by a neutral third party. Second, we updated my will. Daniel wasn't cut out completely. He'd get my personal belongings, photos, mementos, but the money, the assets, everything of value was going into a trust for Jake's education and future. Third, we set up a power of attorney. Not Daniel. Janet herself would be my medical and financial POA if I ever needed one, and she made me take a cognitive assessment, a real one, with a real neurologist. I scored perfectly. You're sharp as a tack, Mrs. Chen, the neurologist said. I'll put that in writing. I kept all of this secret. I acted normal at home. I made breakfast. I did laundry. I smiled at Daniel and Amy. I played cards with Jake. And the whole time, I was documenting everything. I set up my phone to record every conversation. I took photos of the grocery receipts showing I was the only one buying food. I documented every time Daniel said he had a job interview and then came home smelling like beer. I wrote down every time Amy snapped at me for some imagined slight. And I planned the anniversary dinner. On November 30th, the day before the dinner, I told Daniel I wanted to do something special. I'd like to invite a few people, I said. Make it a real party. Honor your father properly. Sure, Mom, he said. Whatever you want. I'd like to invite Carol from book club, and maybe Mr. Peterson from next door. He knew your father well. Of course. What I didn't tell him was that I'd also invited Janet, and the neurologist, and a court reporter. December 1st arrived. Amy spent all day cooking. She made pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, green beans, almondine, apple pie. She was in a great mood, humming while she worked. Daniel was nervous. I could tell. He kept checking his phone, waiting for Dr. Morrison and the lawyer to confirm. At 5:30, I set the table. My good china. The crystal glasses Thomas and I got as wedding presents. Fresh flowers in the center. I wore the blue dress Thomas always loved. I put on the pearl necklace he gave me for our 30th anniversary. Jake came downstairs in a button-down shirt. You look nice, Grandma. Thank you, sweetheart. I hugged him. He still smelled like my little boy, even though he was taller than me now. At 6, the doorbell rang. Dr. Morrison. Right on time. Daniel let him in, all smiles. Dr. Morrison, thank you so much for coming. My pleasure, Morrison said. He was younger than I expected, maybe 50. Kind eyes. I hated that he had kind eyes. 5 minutes later, Roger Wilson arrived, the lawyer. Slick suit, briefcase, handshake like a used car salesman. Mom, Daniel said, guiding me to the living room. These are some friends of mine, Dr. Morrison and Mr. Wilson. They just wanted to stop by and meet you. How lovely, I said. I played my part. Would you like something to drink? The doorbell rang again. Daniel looked confused. Are we expecting someone else? Oh yes, I said brightly. I invited a few people. I hope that's okay. I opened the door. Carol stood there, holding a bottle of wine. Behind her, Mr. Peterson. Behind him, Janet Crawford. Behind her, the neurologist, Dr. Shaw. And behind her, a woman with a stenography machine. Daniel's face went white. Everyone, please come in, I said. We're celebrating my anniversary. 43 years since I married my beloved Thomas. 40 years of marriage before he died. I wanted all my dear friends here to remember him with me. Amy appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked at the crowd of people, looked at Daniel. Daniel was staring at Janet Crawford, recognition dawning in his eyes. Please, I said, let's all sit down to dinner. We crammed around the dining table. It was tight. I made sure Dr. Morrison was next to Dr. Shaw. I put Janet next to Roger Wilson. The court reporter set up her machine on the sideboard. What's going on? Daniel said quietly. We're having dinner, honey, I said, just like you wanted. Amy served the pot roast. It was delicious. I complimented her. We made small talk. Carol told a funny story about Thomas from when he coached Little League. Mr. Peterson remembered Thomas helping him build his deck. Jake was quiet, looking confused. Then, after the main course, I stood up. I want to thank you all for being here, I said. As you know, today is my wedding anniversary, and I've been thinking a lot about Thomas lately, about the life we built together, the values he taught our son. Daniel's jaw was clenched. Thomas always said that family is about love, about respect, about taking care of each other. I looked at Daniel. Not about taking advantage. I pulled out a folder. The folder Janet had prepared. Dr. Morrison, I said, I understand you were planning to evaluate me tonight, to assess my mental competence. Is that correct? He shifted uncomfortably. That was a preliminary discussion. Were you paid to do this evaluation? Mrs. Chen, I don't think. Were you paid? He glanced at Daniel. I was to be compensated for my time, yes, by my son, to declare me incompetent so he could gain power of attorney over my assets. I wasn't asking, I was stating. The room was silent. Dr. Shaw, I said, would you like to share the results of my cognitive assessment from last week? Dr. Shaw cleared his throat. Mrs. Chen scored in the 97th percentile for her age group. Her memory, reasoning, and executive function are all well above average. She is fully competent. I looked at Dr. Morrison. So you were going to file a false report. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You took my son's word. You were willing to upend my life for a fee. I turned to Roger Wilson. And you, Mr. Wilson, you were prepared to file paperwork for power of attorney based on a fraudulent medical assessment. Is that standard practice in elder law? Wilson's face was red. I was acting on my client's behalf. Your client was committing elder abuse. I slid a paper across the table. This is Maine's statute on financial exploitation of the elderly. It's a Class C crime, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Mom. Daniel stood up. This is insane. I was trying to help you. Help me? I turned to him. You were trying to steal my house, my money, my independence. You were planning to lock me away in a nursing home and take everything my husband and I built. You're not well. Amy burst out. You forget things. You get confused. We were worried. I'm 67 years old, Amy. Not 97. I'm in perfect health, and I've been documenting every single interaction we've had for the past 10 days. I pulled out my phone, including the conversation I overheard on November 18th. Would you like me to play it? I pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room. The house alone is worth $400,000. Once we get power of attorney, we can access all of it. Fix our problems. Start over. Jake's face crumpled. Dad? Daniel reached for him. Jake, buddy, it's not what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like, I said quietly. I looked at my son. You were going to humiliate me. Declare me incompetent in front of a doctor and a lawyer. Make me doubt myself. Make me afraid. And you were going to do it on my anniversary. On the day I was supposed to be remembering the man I loved. Mom. Please. I'm not finished. I pulled out another set of papers. This is the deed to this house. As of last week, it's in an irrevocable trust. You can't touch it. When I die, it goes to Jake. Not you. Jake. What? Amy shrieked. My will has been updated as well. You'll inherit family photos and personal items, Daniel. But every dollar of my savings, my pension, everything of value goes into a trust for your son's education. Because he's the only one in this family who deserves it. I looked at Jake. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry you had to hear this, sweetheart. But I want you to know, your grandpa Thomas was a good man. He would want you to have opportunities. He would want you to be better than this. Jake nodded, unable to speak. You have until Sunday, I said to Daniel and Amy. 3 days. To pack your things and leave my house. You can't kick us out, Amy said. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you tried to steal from me. I looked at Dr. Morrison and Roger Wilson. You two need to leave now. And if I hear about either of you attempting anything like this with another elderly client, I will report you to your licensing boards. Are we clear? They were gone within 5 minutes. The court reporter packed up her machine. She documented everything. Janet had a transcript by morning. Carol hugged me. I'm so proud of you. Mr. Peterson shook his head. Thomas would be proud too. After they left, it was just me, Daniel, Amy, and Jake at the table. The pot roast was cold. The candles had burned down. I loved you, I said to Daniel. I gave you everything. Every advantage. Every chance. And this is how you repay me? I was desperate, he said. His voice was hollow. You were greedy. There's a difference. He didn't argue. They moved out on Saturday. Took their clothes, their personal items. I told Jake he could stay if he wanted. He looked at his parents. Looked at me. I need to go with them, he said quietly. But can I visit you? Anytime, I told him. You'll always have a home here. He hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. After they left, the house was silent. For the first time in 6 months, it was mine again. I walked through the rooms. The master bedroom, where Thomas and I had slept for 40 years. The kitchen, where we'd had Sunday breakfasts. The den where we'd watched Jake grow up on video calls. I sat down in Thomas's chair, the one he'd read the newspaper in every morning. And I cried. But this time, they were different tears. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've started taking a watercolor class. Something I always wanted to do but never had time for. I've had coffee with Carol 3 times. Mr. Peterson helped me plant winter bulbs in the garden. They'll bloom in spring. Jake called me yesterday. He's living with Daniel and Amy in a rented apartment in Portland. It's cramped. They're fighting a lot. He asked if he could come visit next weekend. I said yes. I don't know if I'll ever forgive Daniel. Some days I think maybe, if he apologizes, really apologizes, admits what he tried to do, other days I think the trust is too broken, that some things can't be repaired. But I learned something these past 2 weeks. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I'm not just a mother or a widow or an old lady. I'm Margaret Chen. I'm 67 years old. I have a sharp mind and a strong will, and I will not be pushed aside. I will not be declared incompetent. I will not be stolen from. I was wrong about my son. I was wrong to trust him so completely, but I wasn't wrong about myself. I forgot, for a while, that I had power, that I had rights, that I mattered. I won't forget again. So wherever you are right now, if you're watching this, I want you to remember something. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're alone. You have value. You have dignity. You have the right to protect yourself. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not your children, not your family, not anyone. And if someone tries, fight back. Document everything. Get a good lawyer. Trust your instincts. Because you're never too old to stand up for yourself. You're never too old to say no. You're never too old to start over. I'm sitting in my house tonight. My house. The one Thomas and I bought together. The one I'm going to live in until I decide I don't want to anymore. And someday, years from now, Jake will inherit it. And maybe he'll remember his grandma, the one who taught him that love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. That's my story. That's what happened when I overheard my son's plan to declare me incompetent and steal my life. I was wrong about a lot of things. But I was right about one thing. I was worth fighting for.